Hello everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the study guide. I'm going to do about half of them in this video and then half in another video so that we don't just have one super long video. So first thing we have to do here is find the volume of each of these figures. So one thing I really want you to do during this test is use this reference sheet. I'm going to give it to you at the top of your test. It's going to be there for you. And this is actually also the reference sheet they give you on the SAT. So you do want to be familiar with this and know how to use it. So definitely you should be able to name all of these shapes on here. And really what we focused on this unit was all of these formulas down here. And then we also, let's see, we didn't do any circles, but we did do area of a rectangle and area of a triangle. So we covered all of those things during this unit. So let's go ahead and get started. So for number 1, we have to find the volume of this cone. So I guess first step is knowing that it's a cone. And once you have that, you can go ahead and find the volume formula for a cone up here. The volume is 1/3 pi radius squared times the height. Now, one thing you really need to pay attention to is if they gave you the diameter or the radius. You need the radius for the formula, but you need to pay attention to what they gave you in the picture. If we look here, this red line is going all the way across, which means they gave us the diameter. The diameter is 2 times the radius. So in this case, our radius, which should be half of that length, is going to be 8. Our height is 16. So all we need to do is plug that in. Our radius was 8 and our height was 16. And actually what I'll do is, instead of putting pi, I'm just going to put 3.14 here. All right, so you could plug this into your calculator. 1/3 times 3.14 times 8 squared times 16. I guess actually I could put a little parentheses around there to make it look nicer. And I got 1071.79. Now, quick thing, if you are using a phone calculator, it might be a little bit easier to plug it in this way. Instead of plugging in 1/3, plug in 3.14 times 8 squared times 16, and then just divide it by 3. That is another way to do this. You should get the same answer no matter which way you do. And of course, I need units. You need units on your test. This is volume. Volume should be cubed. So this was meters, so it's going to be 1071.79 meters cubed. I didn't specify how to round it, so round it how you please. All right, so now we got another cone. Now this time, they gave us the radius. So we don't have to have anything. We're going to go ahead and use the same formula. 1/3 times pi times radius squared times height. Since it's another cone, we plug it in. Here our radius is 9, and our height is 18. So we go ahead and plug that in. So we do 1/3 times 3.14 times 9 squared times 18. And I got 1526.04. And then this is going to be kilometers cubed because, again, it is volume. Do not forget to cube that unit. All right, next one. Again, make sure you can name all of these shapes. Looking at this is definitely a cylinder. So what I can do is I'm going to go up to my formula sheet and I say, what shape am I looking for here? And I'm looking for a cylinder. We've got our cylinder right here. The formula is volume equals pi radius squared times height. So if we look, did they give me the radius? No, they didn't. They actually gave me my diameter because it goes all the way across. My radius is going to be 12. My height is 11, so I can go ahead and plug that in. Again, I'm just going to use 3.14. If you have a pi button on your calculator, go ahead and use that. If you are using the pi button on your calculator, you might be getting very slightly different answers just because of rounding issues. I'm aware of that when I'm grading this, so don't worry about it. If you prefer to use the pi button, go ahead. If you like to use 3.14, go ahead. I will grade accordingly. All right, so we plugged in pi. Then we have our radius, which is 12 squared, and our height, which is 11. So we plug that in, 3.14 times 12 squared times 11. And I got 4,973.76. And of course, it is volume. Cube it. Ooh, there we go. So that would be our final answer there. All right, for number 4, we have a cylinder again. So we are going to go ahead, use that formula again. Pi radius squared times height. Here, they gave me my radius, so I can go ahead and plug it in. It's beautiful. So we got 3.14 for pi. We're going to do radius squared, and we will use 10 for height. So if you go ahead and plug that in, 3.14 times 4 squared times 10, you should get 502.4, and that's going to be meters cubed. So that is our answer for number 4. All right, so for number 5, we have a sphere, and we have an entire sphere. So we can go ahead and look at our formula for a sphere. So our formula for a sphere is 4/3 pi radius cubed. So we can go ahead. They clearly gave me a radius here, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in then. So we're going to go ahead and plug in 4/3 times 3.14 times 7 cubed. When I plug that in, I got 1,436.03. And then again, volume, inches cubed. Don't forget to do that. I don't want to have to take off silly points from you, so make sure you do that on your test, please. All right. So for number 6, we have a hemisphere. So a hemisphere is half of a sphere. So there's actually 2 different ways you can do this. Now, the volume of a hemisphere isn't actually given on this sheet here. So if you look up here, you're going to say, oh, well, I don't see the volume for a hemisphere. Well, there's 2 different ways you can do it. You could calculate it using this formula and then just divide your answer by 2, since it's half of a sphere. Or you could use the formula 2/3 pi radius cubed. So this is volume of a hemisphere. Excuse me. So if you decide to use this formula up here, go ahead. Just make sure that you divide your answer by 2 at the end. You will get the exact same answer. So if we look at the figure they gave us, our radius is 23. So that's all we got to plug in. We do volume equals 2/3 times pi, which we will do 3.14. And our radius is 23. I'm going to cube it. We plug that in. 2 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 23 cubed. It's probably going to give me a big number here. So we've got 25,469.6 inches cubed. And don't worry about rounding on the test. I'm happy with 1 decimal place. If you give me 2, that's fine too. You know, I'm not going to be too strict about that, so don't stress out about that one. All right. So now we have our composite figures. So these are a little bit tougher, but still completely doable. So when you get something like this, there's not a formula that you can just plug it into. However, if you break down the shape, you can plug it into different formulas. So if we look here, on the top, I have a rectangular pyramid. And if we look on the bottom here, this is a rectangular prism. So if I kind of cut the shape off right here, all I need to do is find the volume of the rectangular pyramid, the volume of the rectangular prism, and add them up. So if we look up here, if I have a rectangular pyramid, I'm going to use this formula, which is 1/3 times length times width times height. So if we're looking at our rectangular pyramid, they show us that the height is 4. Or actually, here, let me write down the volume. So the volume is 1/3 length width height. They tell us that the height is 4. And if we're looking at the measurements they gave us, this length here goes with this 4 down here. So actually our length is going to be 4. And we can say our width is going to go with this 10. So all we got to do now is plug it in. So 1/3 times 4 times 4 times 10. So you go ahead and plug that in. 1/3 times 4 times 4 times 10. And I got 53.33 repeating. And of course, that's going to be feet cubed. So this is the volume of my rectangular pyramid. All right. So unfortunately, I'm not done. I still have to go and find the volume of this rectangular prism down here. So I'm going to erase kind of my work for that. I'm going to do it in a different color. Actually, I'm just going to erase that too. Let's do this pretty blue color. So for our bottom half here, we know that the volume of a rectangular prism, if we look up here, that's going to be this guy, which is length, width, height. So if we look at our prism down here, we can see that our length is 10, our width is 4, and our height is 3. So we just plug those in. 10 times 4, whoops, times 3. And you should get 120. And of course, that's feet cubed. And now for the volume of the entire thing, you just add these up. So you do 53.33 plus 120. And you end up with 173.33. And we'll say feet cubed. And that would be your final answer for number 7. All right, last volume one here, I guess, or last picture problem. All right, so again, this is a composite figure. We need to break it down. So if I'm looking here, I see 2 different shapes. I have a cylinder. Sorry. And we have, on the bottom, it's actually a cube. So first, let's find the volume of the cylinder. If we look up here, to go find my cylinder, it's pi radius squared height. So if I am looking at the cylinder here, they tell me that this here is 4. Well, if I look, that's actually my diameter, right? So my radius is going to be 2. My height of the cylinder is 4. Just plug them in. Volume equals 3.14 times 2 squared times 4. You plug that in. 3.14 times 2 squared times 4. And I got 50.24 inches cubed. Awesome. So now let's go ahead, find the volume of the cube. Now, a cube is a rectangular prism. It's just a special kind of rectangular prism where the length, width, and height are all equal. So we know that for a rectangular prism, we do length, width, height for volume. So this is just going to be 5 times 5 times 5. And 5 times 5 times 5 is 1 25. And that's going to be inches cubed. So then for the volume of my entire figure, I'm going to do 50.24 plus 125, and I end up with 175.24 inches cubed.